It's an incredibly goofy day in the world of Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast has just shown off not one, not two, but three SpongeBob secret lairs. Who's filled with depression, his name is Mikey.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a very ridiculous installment of Mega Magic News. Wizards of the Coast has finally dropped the SpongeBob cards that we were told about many moons ago. And I was expecting one secret lair at most, but they have given us three. And in a strange twist, they just dumped them all together. We don't even know what goes in any particular secret lair, with the exception of the basic lands. I expect that all five of the basic lands are going to end up in one secret lair. But the rest of the cards, your guess is as good as mine. So, obviously, this is going to be an incredibly divisive product. There are going to be people who love it. There are going to be people who hate it. You're allowed to feel however you want to about this. Now, I have a bunch to say about it, but I figure the best thing to do is to look at all of the cards before I share my thoughts. So let's do that now. We're starting off our SpongeBob silliness with the man himself, SpongeBob SquarePants, who is a reskinned Joda the Unifier. And that is actually pretty amusing to me. Just the fact that people have been waiting for a special secret lair treatment of Joda because people like using this guy as their commander. And this is the first option you're ever getting in the world of secret lairs. So, what is Joda? 1 green, 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, and 1 white for a 5/5 legendary human wizard who is all about legendary. So his first ability is legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. So it's a coat of arms just for legendaries. And then the second ability also cares very much about legendaries. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So ultimately, this is a very powerful ability. It's Cascade for legendaries. And if you're playing a SpongeBob style deck, it will let you get other legendary SpongeBob characters and give them a boost. So this guy basically allows you, Wizards was pretty clever picking a 5-color commander so that anybody who wants to go full SpongeBob will be able to put every single SpongeBob card into a commander deck. And all the different characters are legendaries, so you can build different commander decks around them. The artwork is SpongeBob doing a rainbow thing. Don't ask me what that means because I literally know virtually nothing about SpongeBob aside from what I've bumped into with random memes on the internet and the little bit that my wife told me about when I showed her the cards from this secret lair. So, next up, we've got Squidward Sarcastic Snob, and he's actually Graxalax, the Illithid Scholar. So 2 blue and 1 for a 3/2. He is a legendary horror. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. That is a sweet set of abilities. Basically, it's very similar to Coastal Piracy, which is an enchantment that I quite enjoy, but it's built into a creature that says whenever your guys become blocked, you can bounce them to your hand. So you can attack with a bunch of little donks and not care if they block with big dudes. You're not going to lose your creatures. Any bad deal for you turns into a no deal, bounce them back to my hand, and if you have enter the play abilities, then bam, you're going to be able to just get them again and again. So it's a solid card. And this character apparently is the Eeyore-esque character of this world. So he is a grumpalump and basically hates everything, but he's way more miserable about it. Eeyore kind of separates himself out from the rest of everybody, whereas Squidward apparently just hates on everybody and treats them poorly. And I just noticed the flavor text. It says, "I hate all of you." So it's confirmed. I mean, look at that face. My wife said that this guy is my spirit animal and that I also have a big bulbous nose. And at that point, I kicked her out of the apartment. "You get out of here. You leave. I don't need this crap." But, you know, she's probably right. This guy is my spirit animal when it comes to SpongeBob stuff. Next up, we've got Sandy Cheeks. Okay, so I was like, this to me looks like an astronaut when I saw it. I said, "It's an astronaut." And she said, "No, she's not an astronaut." And I was like, "She? I thought it was a he." And then she started yelling at me about the flower in her helmet. This makes me think of the one G.I. Joe who wears that outfit, right? So I thought this is an astronaut. The title says Sandy Cheeks Martial Astronaut. So for me, I don't know why she's saying she's a deep sea diver, but all of this makes no sense to me. So what are you going to do, right? This is actually Toski reskinned, which is bizarre. Toski is awesome, though. 1 green and 3, 1/1 squirrel, can't be countered, indestructible, attacks each combat if able, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So apparently this deck theme, if you play with everything in the secret lair, is going to care about drawing you a bunch of cards. If you have this out and Squidward, you're going to get 2 card draw per each creature you hit with, which is nothing to sneeze at. So the artwork is just, it's a goofy squirrel who's leaping up to do some kind of ninja kick or something. I have literally no concept of what this character is all about. But wait a minute, the tail's not in the suit, but it's also not drenched by water? What? Okay. I shouldn't be trying to apply logic to this. Let's move on to the next card. So we've got Mr. Krabs Penny Pincher. 2 blue and 2 for a 0/17 because he's Cherix the Raging Isle. So he is a Leviathan Crab. Spells your opponent's cast that target him cost 2 more to cast. 3 mana. He gets +X, -X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. So ultimately, that's a big fun ability. Having a 0/17 is a good time that can just grow into a Gigantor, and him having that, you got to pay more to actually target him, makes it so he can stick around more. The flavor text says, "If you boys is wasting time, then you're wasting money," and that's just sick. So this is a dude who runs a restaurant and only cares about the dollars. That's the only thing that makes sense to him. And so he has his own special recipe for his underwater hamburgers, is what I've been led to understand about this. So ultimately, the flavor on this makes no sense. It makes no sense why he would have such massive toughness and get bonuses based on the number of islands. But again, this whole secret lair is a giant meme, right? So it is a fun crab to include, and it is something that you would probably enjoy building a commander deck around. So from that perspective, it works just fine. Wait a minute, he's got some kind of weird, crazy, like Zizzle nose. What even is this? Anyways, he's obsessed with money. Moving on, we've got Plankton the Tiny Tyrant. So this is one that I literally didn't even know existed. My lady explained that this dude wants to steal the recipe for the burger, basically the Krabby burgers or whatever. That's what he is all about. So it's just strange to me. I said to Carly, he went to college, didn't he? And she went, I don't know. I'm like, that's his flavor text. So I presume that's the case. He's supposed to be the evil genius enemy of the show. So 1 white, he's Skrelv Defector Mite. He is a 1/1 Phyrexian Mite. It's really bizarre now that this is officially a Phyrexian. He's just like a Plankton. He's so teeny weeny. Anyways, Toxic 1, Plankton can't block. 1 and tap, choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic and Hexproof 1. And hexproof from that color, I should say, until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. I went to college! So it's weird. Plankton can't block is just saying this guy can't block, not the creature type Plankton can't block, which felt very odd to me because you've got the one wall of kelp that makes what, kelp or plankton token, something like that. So you might think this applies to it, but it doesn't. This is a weird one. Why is he able to give your dudes like hexproof and whatever? I don't even know why I'm actually trying to figure out the logic. I can't help myself. Whenever I look at Magic cards, I try and figure out how the flavor all ties together. So here's Plankton, and he's fisting in the air, and that's it. Let's move on. Then we've got Gary the Snail. So this is Toxrill. 2 black and 5 for a 7/7 slug horror, which is weird to me because this is apparently SpongeBob's pet snail, and it meows like a cat. The more stuff my lady told me, the more my head just started to go, like, you know, because she's younger than me. She grew up with this stuff. I did not. So for me, it's just bizarre. At the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. Whenever a creature you don't control has the slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token, and a black and a blue, sack a slug to draw a card. This is a very powerful card. It shrinks down all of your opponent's creatures. Just boom, every turn. It's this inevitable degradation of what they have. So ultimately, a really strong card. It's a great choice when you're going to redo like, hey, we've got to do a snail, so let's go ahead with this. But it also does feel jarring from the perspective of this is SpongeBob's pet, and it goes around just slaughtering everybody slowly by dissolving them down. It doesn't sound like that's something that happens in the show, but you can definitely build a commander deck around them, right? And you get black-blue in your commander identity because of that sack ability. So a very solid include and a card that people really actually want. So this might move the needle on the secret layer just from the perspective of people wanting you to get a copy of Toxrill. But as I said before, we don't know what's in what secret layer because these were all just dumped on us. Then we've got Patrick Star, the weirdest one of all. 2 red, 1 black, and 4 for a 6/5 vanilla legendary creature. And he's a human warrior because he's a reskin of Barktooth Warbeard. I literally stared at this for the longest time and went, is this real? Is like, am I actually looking at the officially spoiled secret lair stuff? But it is. It is. This is the only card that I'm actually going to show you the original for. Okay, so take a look. This is Barktooth Warbeard. He originally came out in Legends back in 1994. This was the first expansion that came out after I started playing Magic the Gathering. And there was only 2 expansions released before it. It's where legendary creatures were actually birthed. Before Legends, there were literally no legendary creatures. So Commander couldn't have existed without creatures like Barktooth Warbeard paving the way. And we loved these things back in the day. Yes, it is 7 mana for a 6/5 with no abilities. But you have to understand that back in the day, giant creatures were very hard to come by without massive drawbacks. And these guys had no drawbacks, just huge casting costs and really cool flavor. Look at him. He's just some human, but he's so gigantic. He's got the power of a crawworm or a dragon or a demon. The flavor text says, he's devious and cunning in both appearance and deed. Beware the Warbeard, for this brute bites as well as he barks. So cool looking, right? And here he is, birthed as a SpongeBob character. And I have to admit, one of the things I know about SpongeBob is this guy's a big dummy. So they've made him into a big dummy. He's got big stats. He literally has no abilities whatsoever. The flavor text says, I don't get it. It works because I've seen those memes where some weird alien dude is explaining things to him and going, so 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah. And then he just does basically say, so if I take 1 and I take 1 and put them together, I have 2. And he just doesn't get it. It's like, you just agreed to this, bro, right? So I know from the memes that this guy's a moron. And it's amazing that Wizards has actually made a legendary that people will use this vanilla legendary as their commander. There are people who are going to get a kick out of it. And there are cards that actually boost up vanilla creatures that have no abilities. Now, admittedly, they're pretty much all green. So you're not really going to be able to use those with this. But either way, it's hilarious and jarring to me to see Barktooth Warbeard come back to Magic the Gathering 31 years later as SpongeBob SquarePants. Imagine trying to go back and explaining that to myself as a kid. I've traveled back through time. They're going to turn Barktooth into SpongeBob. Who are you, old man? And what is a SpongeBob? Get away from me, freak, right? This is just pure madness. So, after that, we're going to look at cards that aren't legendary creatures. So we've got Knight's Whisper, 1 black and 1 sorcery, draw 2 cards, and lose 2 life. Look at the bloodshot eyes. Is this because Buddy's just not getting any sleep at night? Or is he just angry over their stupidity? I don't know, but it is evocative in its own world, right? Then we've got Daze, 1 blue and 1 instant. You can return an island you control to your owner's hand rather than paying the spell's cost. And you counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. Daze is a pretty solid little surprise counter spell. And obviously, if you're playing like a Charix-based deck, you're not going to have any problem with the island bouncing. In terms of the artwork, it looks to me like Mr. Rich Boy here is running into some serious problems because he's got a bunch of angry customers who probably want their money back. And that's totally like, I can't even handle this. I'm not giving you back your money. I'm guessing that's the vibe, right? Then we've got Force of Despair. 2 black and 1 instant. If it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand rather than paying the spell's mana cost. Destroy all creatures that entered this turn. So it's a pseudo 1-turn Wrath, and which it's a genuinely solid card. And then you take a look at the artwork, and you've got that Squidward dude just looking out the window at Patrick and SpongeBob. We were running around having the time of life. Yay! And he's just looking through the little slats of the window going, oh, I hate you so much, right? the vibe on this is amazing. Despairing over the fact that they're enjoying life and he's forced to deal with idiots. I get that. Then we got Counterspell with the most obvious the SpongeBob meme of all of them, right? So 2 blue instant, counter target spell. There are people who wanted this to be Ristic Study. Do you pay the 1? All in upper and lower case kind of thing. But Wizards doesn't want to give too much value, and they know they can milk the memes. And there's going to be people who love it, right? So this is like the SpongeBob going Durr kind of thing, as far as I understand it. And for a counterspell, yep, that's extra annoying, right? So that works. Then we've got Inevitable Betrayal. So this is a sorcery with Suspend 3 for 2 blue and 1. So you can't actually cast it. You'll notice it doesn't have a casting cost. You have to suspend it. When you suspend the card, that means you exile it with 3 counters on it, and then each upkeep you remove a counter from it. When you remove the last counter, you play the spell without casting it, like without paying its casting cost, I should say. So you're going to have to wait 3 turns for it to go off. Search target opponent's library for a creature card, put that card onto the battlefield under your control, then that player shuffles. So essentially it's a bribery, because bribery does the same thing, but it costs 5 and you get to do it right away. It's a bribery you wait 3 turns for and they know is coming. This is a very strong effect. You get to go and take the most powerful creature from your opponent's deck, deny them it, and you get to use it. So quite powerful. I don't know what's going on in this artwork. That Patrick moron looks really just kind of evil here, and I don't know what he's engaging in. I asked my lady what this moment is, and she shrugged and said, I don't know, it's been a long time since I watched the show. So somebody else is going to have to enlighten me. Why does the dullard look so devious here? Then we've got the food token. This is obviously the Krabby Patty Burger, and they actually were selling these at Wendy's recently. They had a deal for that. So I mean, being able to use this food token, I'm sure, will make SpongeBob fans happy. It's just a burger in a hand, so moving on. We've got the lands. So these are the 5 cards we know will be in their own secret lair. We've got all 5 basic lands. Don't know if Wizards of the Coast is actually going to go ahead and put 2 of each land, but I suspect strongly they're going to try and milk SpongeBob players and go 1 of each land, and that's it. Because these secret lairs are going for $30 for the regular version, $40 for the foil version, and that's American money, right? So they're not charging a higher price tag for it, which makes me think strongly you're only going to get 1 of each land, right? So we've got the island, which shows Bikini Bottom, which is the underwater village where these guys live, and the snail, I believe, goes on a journey through all of these, right? So then you've got the swamp here, which is, what does that say? Nubs? What is that? Oh, is that bus? Oh, it's bus station. Okay. So this is the underwater bus station? They have buses? Does the bus go to the surface? The road's going upward. Do they? Okay, all right. I'm gonna break my brain. Let's move on. The plains here is this even underwater? How does the grass grow like that? Wait. Okay, again, I'm thinking too much. This is the jellyfish fields where the jellyfish fly on by. We've got the kelp forest, which actually I really like this. This looks great. I genuinely enjoy the vibe of this, and partially because this could just be almost like a regular weird forest on a normal Magic plane. Not quite, but really close. You know what I mean? If they did like an underwater style world, you could fit this in pretty easily. So I dig it. I like the colors of it as well. And then we've got a mountain under. This is underwater too, and the lava's wouldn't the lava instantly cool? Right? Well, again, I'm applying way too much logic to this. This is Mount Bikini Bottom, and it's an underwater volcano. You could use this artwork for your own proxies, a volcanic island, right? So ultimately, these are lands that if you're into SpongeBob, you're definitely going to vibe on. The overall nature of this is super ridiculous. But now that we've looked at the cards, I'm going to share a little more of my thoughts here. So let's go do that now. All right, so straight out the gates, I'm going to say that SpongeBob SquarePants isn't for me. This is not a set of secret layers that I have any interest in owning. As far as I'm concerned, I like Magic the Gathering when it's swords and sorcery, we're riding our dragons, we're flinging fireballs. But I do have to also admit that I am thankful that Wizards of the Coast chose to go the reskin meme route with this, because it means you can completely ignore this stuff if you so choose. They did not make functionally unique SpongeBob cards. If they did that, then all of a sudden there might be new cards where you're looking at it and going, man, I really want the abilities on these cards, and now I'm forced to use SpongeBob. By going ahead and picking cards that pre-exist, we all get to go, oh, all right, either, yeah, I super want this, or no thank you whatsoever. So ultimately, Wizards made the right call there so that we can distance ourselves, and it allowed them to do some fun stuff like literally bringing Barktooth Warbeard back. It's such a strange and fun choice, I have to admit. At first, when I looked at it, I didn't know how to feel. But the more I thought about it, the more I just enjoyed the concept. It's kind of gutsy in one way to go, we're going to take this character that you like from this show and make him into a genuinely unplayable card that will still actually see play. It is 2025, and Wizards of the Coast discovered a way to take a 7-cost 6/5 vanilla creature and actually get people excited for it and looking to build decks around it. I imagine if you're actually a fan of the Starfish character and you go, wait a minute, he's just a big dummy that can't do anything, that's perfect. It feels so right. And I am incredibly happy that this is specifically just a set of secret layers, because secret layers are where the universe beyond stuff should live as far as I'm concerned. The whole Final Fantasy, Avatar, Spider-Man stuff being full on sets does shove a lot of worlds beyond, universe beyond, I should say, into the major spotlight instead of a side thing where you can go, yeah, I'll choose to engage with it or not. So secret layers are where they can get way more goofy with it, and I appreciate that we're not going to have a SpongeBob set making its way into standard. At least for this year, we're not having anything too much in the realm of ultra goofiness making it onto the main stage with the actual releases of the standard legal sets, right? Now, obviously 2026 could be a different beast, but for me, I'm quite pleased to see that this will be off to the side. And from the perspective of somebody who's never watched the show, it does feel like they've captured a bunch of the essence of SpongeBob on these cards. Some of it doesn't feel like it. Like the actual SpongeBob card to me feels like a really bizarre choice that doesn't quite fit in properly. But certain cards, like the Force of Despair, those ones, the Days, they flavored them where it feels like they actually fit into their world. So it looks like some effort was put in. When it comes to the artwork, I don't know. It all looks generic to me, but I'm not into SpongeBob. So I've never watched it, and I couldn't say where it falls on the spectrum. So I can definitely understand anybody who hates this and says, I want nothing to do with it. They're ruining my Magic the Gathering. I absolutely get it. I also get the perspective of people who are like, bro, I'm super hyped about this. I've spoken to people in real life who were telling me, I can't wait to see the SpongeBob stuff. I know you don't like Universe Beyond stuff, bro. I get it, but I am super hyped for SpongeBob. So at the end of the day, if we're gonna get SpongeBob and Magic, at least they did it in a way that is the least impactful in a negative perspective for me. They made it into a secret lair, they made it into reskins, and it's not like a full-on sprawling set that we're going to be forced to interact with, because there will be no way to avoid Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, or Avatar. That is not in the cards. So feel free to let me know your thoughts. I know people are going to be sounding off on this one. I'm going to be doing a live stream tonight where we can talk more about the current state of Magic the Gathering, Universe Beyond, and all that. You are welcome to join me. That'll be happening over on my live stream channel. A big shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel. You guys rule. Thanks for coming by, my friends, and I will see you all in the next video.